few years ago, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, my father asked me if I would be interested in seeing his Army records. These are his Army records that I'm looking at. And the reason why I'm showing you this is that my dad has been living a lie. He claims he suffers from PTSD. He claims that he is combat wounded. He claims that he has all of this problems from fighting in the war. When I first received these documents, I was devastated. I had always known what my father did in the Army, so part of it I wasn't surprised. I had heard rumors of what he did and what had happened with another woman there, but he always denied it. Always denied it. Because that would mean that he had cheated on my mother and had another child somewhere with someone else. And my father denied it. Denied there was even a woman there. However, now he's very proud of the fact that he had this affair with this woman. In fact, when I bring it up now, he calls it good times. Vietnam to him was good times. But yet, he'll tell a different story to different people that will make him feel sorry for him. This is the lie of my father, right here. This is my father's lie. This is the burden that my father carries. So let me just tell you a little bit about my father. He enlisted in the Army on August 11th, 1965. On February 7th, 1966, my father was deported to Vietnam as a supply company repairman. He never once saw a day of fighting. He was stationed in Cam Ranh Bay. This was the centralized location where everyone came in to Vietnam. This was kind of like their first stop there. And then they would get deported to other places within Vietnam to fight or to serve. Cam Ranh Bay was like a resort. I saw one video where it is a luxurious bay, gorgeous island in Vietnam where there are beaches everywhere. And one of the videos showed a lot of the military personnel just romping around, having a good time at the bay. To hear my father tell this story about Cam Ranh Bay, you would think this was the worst place on earth. But I think most military people, Vietnam vets, would be appalled at what my father is saying and doing. I think most military personnel, even serving today, would be incredibly disgusted by how my father has used his time in the service to make people feel sorry for him. I won't deny that my father suffers from Agent Orange. They did spray Cam Ranh Bay. They sprayed almost every area of Vietnam. So it is likely that my father did get sprayed with Agent Orange. However, he claims it was on his 21st birthday. However, the numbers don't add up. My father celebrated his 22nd birthday in his 1-year service in Vietnam. By January of 1967, my dad was already back in the United States in New Jersey. So my dad wasn't even in Vietnam for a full year. He was only there for about 10 or 11 months. This may be the reason why. My dad got into a lot of trouble in the war. This would probably be why my father is acting as if he is more of a war hero than he is a criminal. Granted, my father was released from the service with honorable discharge, but only after serving so many more years after. My father wasn't even full military after he left Vietnam. He was only on reserve. I do know this because my mom lived with him. She was with him and in Maryland and in New Jersey, where they got married. My parents were married on April 4th, 1967. And I know that because it's a really cool date. 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, let me tell you something that happened while my dad was in Vietnam. December 6th, 1966, while he's in Vietnam, my dad gets written up for going AWOL. It has been reported that on or about 0700 hours, the 3rd of December, 1966, at 74th Supply Company, Repair Parts, Cam Ranh Bay, you did, without proper authority, fail to go to your appointed place of duty, to wit, Warehouse number 65, Cam Ranh Bay Depot. This constitutes a violation of Article 86, USMJ. My dad went AWOL, and he admitted that he went AWOL. He said that he was going to leave for this woman. He had been seeing this woman in Vietnam, and he got her pregnant, and then just left her. I know this because I have a letter here from her, and I will try to read it to the best of my knowledge. She doesn't speak English very well, and it's not written very well, of course, because she didn't speak English, but this is her handwriting. Her name is Kim. I want to share something with you. This is part of my father's Army record. The Army had been watching him, and this was all part of the documents. I would say something serious was going on in order for the Army to include pictures of my father and pictures of the woman, as well as the letter that was written to my father. I would assume something was going on here. The letter says, "My dear Mike, how are you?" I don't know what it says after that. "I hope you well. I'm okay. Why did you can come see me?" So I'm going to assume it's, "Why didn't you come see me? I'm very sad. I don't know what this says because it looks like it was cut in two, as you can see, the line down the middle. So I'm not entirely sure what happened to this, but I'm trying to read it from here. Something that you have one day, you come see me, but long time. I know you busy now. During Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I feel very sad. Why do you know? Because you cannot come with me. Mike, I don't know what it says, but it looks like a capital K. Me one picture. I can look your picture and never forget you, okay? Please write and don't forget me, okay? I want to kiss you, okay? my baby, a friend, Kim, and GA. So my father finally, over the past several years, has finally admitted that he did have this affair with this woman, this Kim. And now he actually is saying that not only did he have an affair with her, but he had left the army for her, that he went AWOL for her, and he was going to bring her back to the States, even though he was with my mother. So this is one of the instances that my father left and did something wrong in the army. And it doesn't take too much longer for my father to really mess things up. This is on December 17th, 1966. Not very much longer after he goes AWOL, he now comes back, and this is what he does. It has been reported that on or about 1900, 15 December to 0600, 16 December 1966, at Cam Ranh Bay Depot, Vietnam, you were derelict in the performance of your duties in that you negligently failed to properly consolidate and or store items in warehouse number 65, Cam Ranh Bay Depot, thereby causing 16 errors out of 18 items that you processed. In addition, 15 items of different stock numbers were placed in a box where only one item was to be located, thereby causing no record to be made of each of the items. You were assigned the responsibility of a row in the warehouse, and upon checking the accuracy of the locations within the row, numerous items were found out of place, thereby causing warehouse refusals for critical items of electronic repair parts and the possible hindrance of combat missions. This constitutes a violation of Article 92, U.S.M.J. With that, my father was reduced to the grade of Private First Class E3. He was also to be restricted to the confines of the 74th Supply Company for a period of 14 days, except for the performance of military duty and church privileges. He could not leave. Another thing that my father claims is that he is combat wounded. I will say right here, right off the bat, my father must have lied about some things. Because in one of the papers, item 42 of remarks, it says waiver granted for fraud entry. HQ USATC and Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, 16 September 1965. So now we know that he's lied about something, and he did get a waiver granted, which I had looked up before I started this video to find out what this would have meant. It would have meant that my father lied on his application, and he would have been disqualified if a waiver had not been granted. Fraud automatically disqualifies you for service unless a waiver is granted. And it says that they did grant a waiver for his fraud entries. The other thing that's interesting on this piece of paper is that it says, it'll list awards and decorations. NDSM? No. Vietnam Service Medal? No. VCM with DVC? No. Rifle M14 SS badge? Yes. So was my father a combat hero? A combat wounded? Here's your answer. No. No, he wasn't. My father has got an entire community in Arizona believing that he is combat wounded. That the reason why he's in a wheelchair, the reason why he suffers so greatly, is because of the war in Vietnam. My dad never saw a day of fighting in his life. My dad was not traumatized by the war because there was nothing to be traumatized by. Cam Ranh Bay saw no fighting in 1966. I know because I looked it up. It was basically a dropping place for military people to just get into Vietnam, to get their supplies, and to wait until they were ordered somewhere else within Vietnam. My father worked in the supply. He repaired things. He was given just one single row to take care of and couldn't even do that because he cared more about playing around with a woman in Vietnam rather than serving his country. And now he stands as this amazing military man who cries at the thought of someone in the military being harmed, and that's wonderful. But he's taking it as if it's his own experience. He is claiming now to be this amazing war hero. However, my father never even talked about the war until about 2 or 3 years ago. And suddenly he was in the war. And if you ever watch any of the Vietnam movies, you'll know some of the soundtracks that they play. Jimi Hendrix, Jefferson Starship. I really respect the military. I really respect anybody who serves our country. I do. And I respect my dad for doing so. However, he made a mockery of the military. He made a mockery of what this country stands for. And now he wants everyone to stand up for him. If anybody should be taking a knee, it should be me. I should be taking a knee at the anthem for what my father has done and how he has completely demoralized what the service stands for and what the servicemen and women do for our country. He wasn't there for our freedom. He wasn't there to fight for us. He was there having a good time at the beach, screwing things up for other people, making missions impossible in combat because of his mess-ups, and going AWOL for a girl. A part of me feels sorry for my father that he had to create this false persona and believes it. You know, there's a saying that if you keep repeating the same lie over and over again, eventually you will believe it yourself. You will begin to believe your own lies, and you won't be able to tell fact from fiction. And that's where my father is. He does not know fact from fiction anymore because he has been lying for so long and bamboozling an entire community into thinking that he's someone he's not. And then he has the nerve to tell me that those people know him better than I know him. I would have to disagree with you, Dad, because I'm the one that has your Army records here. I'm the one who knows the truth about who you are, and what you did, and what you didn't do, and how you put men on the line in danger because you were too busy thinking about what was in your pants and where you were going to get it next. And then you left a woman stranded in Vietnam with her child, and she was begging for you, while my mother was begging and praying for you back home. While your family was worried about you and loving you and carrying you, you were lying. You were creating a mess back home. And you're proud of it. You are proud of that woman. She was good times. I understand that there were men in the service that did terrible things to women there. I understand that there were men in the service that cheated on their wives or their girlfriends back home because they were lonely or whatever. But I also know that there were men there that did not do those things, that they respected and cherished their family, And I also know that my dad was only there for 10 months, so I think you could have kept it in your pants for 10 months, Dad. I think it would have been nice if you could have, just tried to show a little bit of restraint. I can understand if you were in Vietnam for 5-6 years and you hadn't seen your family, but by golly, you hadn't been there very long before you found another woman to mess around with and then just abandon and leave her and her child. Your child. You are a disgrace to the United States military. You are a disgrace to the men and women who fight so hard for our freedom. You are a disgrace to the men and women who offered to go to Iraq, who lined up to fight for our country after 9/11. You are a disgrace to those men and women who wanted to fight for our country and did so and came back combat wounded with real PTSD. Not some fake, I'm crazy routine because you've been crazy your whole life. You are a disgrace to the United States of America. Michael H. Quas.